After the Civil War, the state of Minnesota decided that it was important that the state document the Minnesota experience in the Civil and Indian Wars, so they commissioned a book to be written. After World War I, they did the same thing. We didn't want to wait 30 years before we start this process. We want to start now. And this book and its framework really is inspired by those other works that were done. Who is the audience for this book? That audience probably hasn't been born yet. It's an audience that's going to want to pull the book off the shelf 50 or 100 years from now and understand what happened and have some context to try to understand that. And important for us to work together as a community to start to try to answer those questions now rather than waiting another 20 years before we get started. I certainly appreciate Al and Tim. I mean, there couldn't be two better people to write on this topic because, well, they've been writing on this topic for 20 years, right? So to call upon them and have them be of service to the museum and of service to GWOT veterans, thanks for taking that on.
I'm honored to be part of this project, to capture these stories, the newer stories. I was Tim's predecessor as the editor of the Minnesota Legionnaire. I did that for about 25 years. During the course of that time, I wrote a lot of stories about veterans, some global war and terror, mostly World War II, because they were slipping away from us, and I felt a need to talk to those guys while they were still with us, because once the stories are gone, the stories are gone. It's really an honor for me as a writer to work on this project.
It's difficult to write about. It's not easy to just sit there and describe what happened and then not necessarily connect it to your own experiences sometimes. But it's important, though. It's important to document this. It's important to share it. It's important for the people that 20, 40, 100 years from now that they know what happened. And these are the sacrifices that Minnesotans made for their country, for their state, for their community. So, I'm proud to be part of this book. I'm proud to contribute to it.
It'll be the first draft, it won't be the last draft. We'll go back and do it again and again and again, but we want to get this right because there has been real sacrifice and service attached to this, and we owe it to future generations to explain it as best as we are able to, good, bad, and otherwise. So really appreciate you guys being here, your ongoing work to get this done. Again, we want to hear more stories. It's never going to be a done book. The story is still being written and always will be. The legacy of these veterans, the things they live with burn pits, and other issues that they're going to endure, much like the Vietnam veterans have done. We're going to face some of those issues down the road, and we just want to be part of that conversation because it's what a museum that wants to be relevant should be doing. So thank you for your involvement in this process.